30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, a very late evening actually to our viewers in the UK. It's actually early morning in Western Europe, the rest of Europe for that matter, and good afternoon, viewers in the Western Hemisphere. Good morning to viewers in the Pacific Rim, and I believe it's a morning where a lot of you are probably watching now as opposed to having to get up super early in the morning. So thanks very much for checking into the Angry Astronaut, and we are here to cover Flight 8 of Starship. Before we get going any further, where is everybody checking in from? Hello, Houston. Hello, Mike. And let's see, who else do we have checking in today? Bear with me for, hey, Dystopian. Welcome back into the chat. Yes, very, very late. Yes, I apologize for keeping people up. It's Elon keeping us up, not me. Hello, Hungary. Hello, Hong Kong. Oh, nice to see you again, Joe Pilot. It's been a little while. It's my Canadian pilot friend lives in Hong Kong. Hello, Nottinghamshire and Clifton, Ireland. Hello, Damien again. Hello, Four Marks. John, thanks very much. Really, really appreciate it. Hey, Boston and Roswell. Hello, Anton Nim. And who else we got? Indianapolis and Hailing Island, Florida and New Jersey, Louisiana, East London. Hello, East London. Poland, Hailing Island. We got UK, Southern Pines, Northern Carolina on the shorts side. We have vertical as well as horizontal live streams here on the Angry Astronaut now. It got a lot of new viewers coming to the channel as a result of doing that. So welcome to all the new folks. Hello, South Africa on the YouTube Shorts side. Hello, Maine and Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Long Island, Puerto Rico, and Belfast, Northern Ireland. Thanks very much for checking in. Hello, Robert. Thank you for being such a long-time supporter of this channel, and thanks so much for the super chat. In Indianapolis again, and Japan. Hey, thanks for checking in, Japan. Don't have a lot of viewers in Japan, and I'd love for that to change. Hello, Anton Nim. Thank you so much for your support. As always, really appreciate you backing up this channel as you always have. And yes, indeed, we do have a prop load underway. About 18 minutes ago, about 18 minutes ago, SpaceX announced that they were going to go ahead and start prop load. So everything is looking very, very smooth. Everything is looking good for a launch. By the way, let's go ahead while we have a couple of minutes. I want to update everybody on the merch contest that's going on right now. And as the producer gets ready to put up some of the images of the merchandise for you folks, we'll let you know how things are going with the current contest. Right now, those of you unfamiliar, I've got a new merch line. And we're going to go ahead and put the link to that merch store here in the chat. And it's been very popular just because Sunline, the company, my new merch company in Texas, these guys are awesome. They're so awesome that SpaceX sells their shirts in Boca Chica at Starbase. And just really comfortable stuff, much better quality than the stuff I used to have. And so the contest we have is we have a UFO related shirt. We have a Hohmann orbital transfer equation shirt for spaceflight, and we have one for the Apophis asteroid. And whoever wins gets a week dedicated. We've either have an alien week if it's for UFOs, or we have a space science week if Apophis wins, or we have a space flight week if the Hohmann orbital transfer solution works. Right now, UFOs are running away with it. I mean, big time. So what I've done is it's a very close contest for second place. So I'm going to do a week for first and second place. Right now, between the space flight and the space science folks, it's super close. Also, we have a shirt dedicated to the rescue, the space station rescue with the Crew Dragon, for those of you who are fans of that sort of thing. John, thank you so much for the tenor. Really, really appreciate it. So just wanted to make sure people knew about it. Looks like a UFO or another alien week is likely, just because that shirt is super popular with our UFO fans, but it's not over yet. The contest ends on the 22nd. And by the way, the store closes too on the 22nd. A lot of that merchandise will go away permanently after the 22nd. So in any event, just all the details in the description. And now I'll stop self-promoting there, and we'll get back to Starship. So yeah, Flight 8, very, very important indeed. Once again, John, thank you so much for that tenor, and I really appreciate everybody's support today, whether it be super chats or PayPal, Patreon. All that is so important because there's a lot going on with this channel this year. I intend to go to Australia. I intend to come back to the States to cover another Starship launch in person. And also, I intend to go to the National Archives and check out some of the UFO videos, including a couple that are in the CIA archives, which for some reason they have not uploaded. They have not digitized these for years now. They've made it clear that they have these CIA videos, but for some reason they don't digitize them. So I'm going to personally go to the National Archives and check out those videos and bring all that detail to you folks. So all this, long and the short of it, is all the support that I get from you folks, all that will go to those sorts of that sort of content, unique content that other channels aren't going to bring you, at least not the UFO stuff anyway. Certainly there's a lot of folks bringing Starship today. Obviously this is a very big deal. All of these tests are a very big deal, but in the aftermath of what happened with Flight 7, SpaceX really needs a win right now. It's very odd. We have our sixth anomaly in 8 or so months. And again, it's about 7 to 7.5 months, actually. Quite a number of anomalies. We have 2 lower stage anomalies, and then we have all the upper stage anomalies that have happened with Falcon 9. And then obviously we had the anomaly with Starship as well. This is uncharacteristic for SpaceX. They're usually way better than this. Again, these are minor anomalies. They're not a huge deal, but at the same time, it is a little strange. Mr. Charles, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm a big coffee drinker. So yeah, I definitely appreciate your support there. And I apologize. Let's see, is it Lynor? I'm probably mispronouncing that. Thank you so much for your generous support as well. 5th and 3rd super chats, respectively, from you folks. Really, really appreciate it. So yeah, SpaceX needs a win here. They need to take a big step forward. They are going to be deploying some dummy satellites, some test Starlink satellites. And again, Starship, enormously, enormously important to the eventual success of Starlink, simply because the larger Starlink version 2 satellites are only deployable by Starship. They found a way to deploy some upgraded Starlink satellites from Falcon 9, but they still aren't the full-fledged upgraded Starlink satellites that are necessary in order to really bump up the bandwidth capability, bandwidth capacity of Starlink. And that being the case, the Starship needs to get into service for orbital missions. It's very important to the for Elon's plans for Starlink. In addition to that, of course, we have Artemis, and we took a big hit lately as far as Artemis is concerned today. Not an enormous hit, because there's definitely some positive things that have happened here as well, but still, Intuitive Machines had a heartbreaking event on the moon. We don't know if there's a complete loss of the vehicle, because it's definitely still receiving power, has some operating systems, communication is still operating, etc. So all of that is still functional. But the problem is, we know that the orientation of the spacecraft is off. The orientation is messed up. And that being the case, it's not receiving the appropriate amount of power from the sun, not getting as much solar power as it absolutely needs. So yeah, Rockin, thank you very this once again. Appreciate the question about Athena. Not quite dead, but definitely injured, very injured indeed. Joyce, yes, indeed. I like it here in the United Kingdom a lot. Folks here are just really nice, let me tell you. The people here are very considerate to one another, and that includes folks who are not from here. Immigrants come over, and the vast majority of them that I have met, they're every bit as polite and considerate as a British citizen. I think it's like they pick it up, they absorb it, and I'll give you an example of that here in just a little bit. But once again, in terms of Athena is not totally dead, but given its current configuration, lying on its side or leaning or whatever's happened to it, it's not going to be able to deploy its hopper, which was a very important thing, the Intuitive Machines hopper that was capable of wandering as far as 10 kilometers away from the landing site, giving it a huge reconnaissance capability. No luck. That's not going to happen. And also, they were supposed to drill into the regolith looking for lunar ice. That also is not going to happen because of the current configuration. So, two of the most critical things that this mission was supposed to carry out most likely are not going to happen. And that being the case, it appears that IM-2 is actually a worse failure, or partial failure, whatever you want to call it, than the IM-1 mission. That being the case, though, we need to keep in mind that from all of these failed missions, all 4 of these failed missions combined from CLIPS adds up to one of the unmanned reconnaissance missions that NASA used to do prior to the Apollo missions, the equivalent of what NASA did for Apollo. And they were much more successful, but they were much more expensive. NASA probably has gotten far more experiments successfully executed on the surface of the moon with CLIPS for the same amount of money as NASA got done with their unmanned program. So the NASA Surveyor program, by the way, is what it was called at that time. So we can't look upon what's happened today as an indication that this entire program is a complete failure. It's clear that contracting private companies for cut rate prices for much lower cost than what the old Surveyor missions used to cost with the government program. It's clear that is not as reliable. It's clear that these companies can't get the job done, at least not and make a profit at the same time and get it done as reliably as NASA used to be able to do it. But at the same time, in terms of cost per experiment, as one of my supporters pointed out tonight, yeah, interesting indeed. Let's see. So Really appreciate it. Let's see here, Liam. Thank you. You know what? Let's go ahead and have. You can talk to ASN, another space nut, about the possibility of moderation and all that. That would be fine. We don't know all the information about why it failed yet. It shouldn't have failed. The last time it failed was because of failure of the landing LiDAR system. This time, the LiDAR was operating properly, in my opinion. But once again, this is just shooting in the dark right now. I think it failed because of the design. I really don't think that a tall lander, a top heavy lander, with legs, with the span of the landing gear being as wide as the vehicle is high, I think that's a messed up configuration. The Apollo LEM was much wider in terms of its landing gear than it was tall. And I think that design is just much better for setting down on uneven, unstable regolith on the moon. I think that's just a much better way to do it. And yeah, I'm really not sure if that's that design is good for landing on the moon. Of course, that being the case, Starship is also poorly suited for the moon, even more so. And I think that Starship is going to be challenged significantly, but hopefully they'll be able to pull it off. They only need to get one Starship down there. Once you can do that, then you can build a landing pad for Starship, and then landings will be much easier. But you need, before the landing pad is in place, I think landing there is going to become an extreme difficulty. Yeah, the hopper was called Grace Hopper. In charge, yes, an individual in charge of writing the COBOL computer language. Yes, indeed, a tragedy to have lost that hopper, because it really could have done some incredibly valuable reconnaissance, and had an amazing namesake, a pioneer in the history of computer programming. So yeah, a bummer indeed. But we'll see what happens. Intuitive Machines right now definitely got some has gotten some valuable contracts. Apparently IM1 was successful enough. But here we go. Looks like we're going to go ahead and bring SpaceX on live now.
Broadcast from Starbase's new Star Factory building. First, if you don't count Monday. But we are at T-minus 28 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting, down to a liftoff at the open of our window at 5:30 p.m. Central Time today.
3 days ago, we stood down from a launch attempt after triggering a few holds during the count, which had us hold at T-minus 40 seconds for several minutes, resume the count, and then trigger another automated hold. The final item that ended the day was when we encountered lower than acceptable pressure on the ground spin start system for 2 of the outer engines on the Super Heavy booster. All Raptor engines use high-pressure gas to start up, and we use gas stored on the ground side to start up the 20 outer engines on Super Heavy. By the time this automated hold appeared and the team started to work through it, we also triggered a hold on the booster LOX levels and had to call it for the day.
We were able to trace the spin system issue to just a misconfig on some of the ground hardware, so that had a really straightforward fix. We just took the time, though, to look into some of the other items that resulted in holds throughout the count, including some of our automation was triggering holds on the booster, which we were able to actually clear during that launch attempt by confirming the hardware was healthy, and we had some manual commanding backups. We also looked at some pop-up hardware and software issues on the ship, and just to put us in the best possible spot for a launch today, we destacked Starship, did some repairs inside a ship, and then ran some additional checkouts.
And that brings us to today, just about a month and a half after our last flight, which saw the second ever tower catch of the Super Heavy booster and the first flight of our upgraded ship, which unfortunately ended much sooner than we had hoped. It's important to remember that in development programs like this, progress is not always linear, and there is no comparison to putting flight hardware in a flight environment to learn as fast as possible. We always want to be in the best possible position to achieve our mission objectives, which is why we stood down from launch on our previous attempt and took the time over the last few days to get ready for launch.
Now, the objectives for today's flight going to look very similar to Flight 7. As always, primary payload for these flight tests is data. We are planning to deploy some simulated Starlink satellites and fly a range of experiments focused on reentry. We removed a whole bunch of tiles again from the ship for reentry testing and looking to really stress test it.
We'll also be intentionally stressing the flaps during reentry so we can test the limits of ship before we get ready to attempt future ship catches. So there is a lot of new testing happening today, and as always, excitement is guaranteed.
Now, just a real quick status check. So you could tell we're loading prop onto the vehicle. We're able to get through our prop load go, no go just about 40 minutes ago. And we are loading liquid oxygen, liquid methane on both vehicles, not tracking any vehicle problems, issues on either booster or ship. Weather is green right now. Winds at the pad are actually significantly lower than they are even just for us over here at the Star Factory. Just a couple mile difference makes a big change in those wind speeds. And range is currently projected to be go, but we are always watching any boats that are out there in the ascent and the entry. Now, let's take a couple of minutes to meet today's vehicle. Sitting there on the pad, it's the world's biggest rocket, Starship.
Starship consists of 2 stages, the ship, which has 6 Raptor engines, and the Super Heavy booster, which has 33 Raptor engines. Both stages are fully reusable. Super Heavy is the most powerful rocket ever flown and is designed to launch, return, and refuel, and launch again with 0 refurb between flights.
And then everything else you see around Starship, we refer to as Stage 0. That includes the towers. We've got our second launch tower stacked on the left side of your screen there, getting ready to come online later this year. It also applies to orbital launch mounts, our quick disconnect systems, everything on board. Also the water-cooled flame deflector, which is right underneath Starship. That's a particularly cool piece of engineering. It uses several 100,000 gallons of potable water to offset the pretty intense heat pressure coming out of those 33 Raptor engines at the bottom of the Super Heavy booster at the time of liftoff.
Now, you mentioned engines. Of the 6 Raptor engines on the ship, 3 of those are optimized for sea level performance and the other 3 for vacuum. Raptor Vacuum, or RVAC, well, those have a larger exhaust section and expansion nozzle to maximize efficiency in space, as there's no atmosphere up there. The ship as a whole is designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface.
The ship itself has 4 flaps that are used to control its attitude and enable precision landing during subsonic flight. And then for full reusability, the ship has to survive re-entry not just once, but multiple times. It does that by using that heat shield, which is composed of those thousands of hexagonal ceramic tiles, which can insulate the vehicle during re-entry, temperatures spiking up to about 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit in some spots. And a rapidly reusable heat shield has never been flown on any vehicle in history. So continuously improving the one we have, Starship, is still a key focus of our flight test campaign.
And of course, in between our first and second stages is our hot stage. Hot staging is when the second stage engines ignite while still attached to the first stage. There you can actually see a video of our previous hot staging maneuver, or executed on a previous flight. And how the ship's engines light while it's still ignited while the booster's engines are still firing. Basically, the rocket never stops accelerating, which makes it more efficient than traditional stage separation.
And then after we launch the booster, we also have to catch the booster. And we do that by using the 2 robotic arms, the same ones that lift Starship onto Super Heavy before we launch. They also catch the booster when it returns. It means we don't have to have any landing legs in the booster. That's a lighter booster. It means we can put more payload, more stuff going to space.
Thousands of criteria must be met before the booster can return and be caught. It requires a healthy systems and manual commanding from the flight director.
And just like on our previous flights, if that command's not sent before the end of the boost back burn, or if those automated health checks running in the background find any unacceptable conditions on the booster or the tower, they'll kick us out, and the booster can default to a landing burn and a soft splashdown out there in the Gulf.
Yeah, we've said it before. We'll say it again because it still holds true today. We accept no compromises when it comes to ensuring the safety of the public and our team. And the booster return will only take place if those thousands of conditions are right. So as the clock continues to tick down to launch, let's say hello to Chris, who's once again posted up in Hawthorne. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, Kate and Dan, and welcome everyone to Hawthorne, California. As you can hear and as you can see, the crowd is gathering. Excitement is really building here for Starship's 8th flight today. And speaking of flight, let's talk about the Raptor engines, which have quite a workout ahead of them today. Now, our Raptor engines are designed and manufactured right here in Hawthorne, and they have certainly accomplished some impressive things already. They've powered Starship in its first few flights around Earth, and they've helped bring 2 Super Heavy boosters back for a catch by the Mechazilla system at the launch site. But here at SpaceX, we're always looking to improve our designs, and we do this by using something that we call the algorithm. Now, for Raptor, the algorithm has helped us question the requirements for the engine, find the parts that we don't need, and then optimize the design for manufacturability and reuse. This allows us to simplify designs and drives us toward that rapid, reliable reuse. And as you can see on your screen here, it is definitely what we have done with the Raptor engine. Look at that beautiful family photo. You can really see how Raptor 3 is an unprecedented step forward in design. It eliminates the parts we don't need. It moves a lot of stuff inside the engine. And one thing that it also allows us to do is to delete the heavy engine heat shields that are used on the current version of Raptor today. And what that means is that when we switch to the Raptor 3 engine later this year, we'll be able to save about a metric ton of mass per engine. And when you multiply that by 39 or more engines, that's a lot of mass. And that mass savings actually helps us increase Starship's efficiency and the amount of payload that we're able to deliver to space and to Mars with Starship. But before we get to Mars, we still have a lot of important and critical development work to do. And it's flight tests like today's that help us do just that. Needless to say, the Raptor teams here in Hawthorne are very excited for today's flight and to see their hard work fly, just like all of our Starship teams are today for Flight 8. So Dan and Kate, back to you for some more info on Flight 8.
Thanks, Chris. You mentioned development. Let's talk about things that we learned from our last Starship mission. In January, Flight 7 of Starship generated lots of important data. That data led us to change some of our pre-flight testing for today's flight. A major find from Flight 7 was the detection of a harmonic response that was much stronger during flight than anything we had seen during testing.
That's right. Rocket engines create incredible amount of noise, vibration that can pass through every component in the rocket itself. Flight 7, we saw those vibrations at a specific frequency. They were also strong in a strong enough amplitude that it was placing a lot of extra stress on some of Starship's propulsion system. And that's what most likely led to propellant leaks that then cascaded into fires and ultimately our loss of contact with the ship.
As part of our investigation, our team took this flight's ship through a 60-second static fire, which was 10 times longer than any previous static fire. The test cycled through throttle levels to recreate different conditions seen within the propulsion system during flight. You can see that on your screen now. We also tested hardware changes on fuel feed lines to Raptor's vacuum engines.
The additional data we got from this test specifically led to some new hardware that's installed in the RVAC fuel feed lines, which are also unique to this upgraded version of ship. Those feed lines look like large straws. They run through the oxygen tank, and those are delivering fuel directly to those vacuum engines. The new hardware was successful in significantly lowering the strength of that harmonic resonance and relieving the extra stress on the prop system. And then just in addition to new hardware, we made a couple of operational tweaks, adjusting things like the temperature of the propellant as it's being fed to the engines, also changing the throttle level that we're setting those engines at on ascent.
We also looked at where fires broke out in the attic, which is the unpressurized space between the bottom of the ship's liquid oxygen tank and the engine heat shields. Fires here resulted in loss of ship on flights 2 and 7, so we took steps to make it more resilient to leaks. We added a hefty purge system that uses gaseous nitrogen. Similar to the carbon dioxide system on the booster, it floods the zone with an inert gas to help prevent a fire.
Yeah, we also increased the attic's just natural fire defense. We added some more vent holes that helps to keep that attic pressure close to vacuum. As Starship flies into space, makes it harder for a fire to ever exist. And then on the next generation ship, we're going to do the best thing possible and just start deleting some parts.
Yeah, the best part is no part.
The next generation of ship is going to use Raptor 3 engines, which are going to reduce that attic volume, and they're also going to eliminate most of the joints on the engines themselves that can leak into the space.
In the end, these changes represent the core of our test program. We fly hardware in a real-world environment, learn from the data, make updates, and fly again.
And then today we're going to be attempting to do everything that we didn't get to do on Flight 7. So we're still looking to get our first re-entry with the upgraded ship, while we're going to be really intentionally stressing it again to get data on what the vehicle's boundaries are. So everything we've got ahead of us, as always, starts with liftoff, and that's super heavy, igniting those 33 Raptor engines, lifting off from the pad here at Starbase for that initial ascent. Those all 33 will burn for the first roughly 2 minutes before we get into hot staging.
For hot staging, the second stage will ignite its engines while still attached to the first stage. That will create that stage separation. The booster will perform a flip maneuver and head on back to the launch site here just behind us. Then we will hopefully see the third ever tower catch by the launch tower.
Meanwhile, ship completes its ascent burn, gets into its suborbital trajectory. We've got some extra things we're going to do in space, like deploy those Starlink simulators. Also going to be relighting one of the Raptor engines, one of the sea level engines, before we get into re-entry.
Yeah, that re-entry phase will test multiple experiments, including missing heat shield tiles, metallic tiles, and loading the vehicle's flaps. The ship will then perform a flip maneuver and hopefully achieve a soft water landing as we have seen before. We've got some buoy cams stationed out there to give us great daylight views of that splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, it's a lot, but again, we're really focused on finding what are the real world limits of Starship. We're doing it in this very remote area to find those limits before we get ready to return ship to the launch site and eventually catch it. And a lot of the upgrades we made to get to this version of ship are going to enable that.
Yeah, man, that's going to be exciting to see ship catch.
It's going to be wild.
Now, Ship 7 premiered a huge block of upgrades to add more capability to Starship, and we've carried them through to test on Flight 8 today. First, the forward flaps got a redesign. They have shrunk and shifted away from the ship's belly or the heat shield. You can see that on your screen there. This new position will reduce their exposure to heating during re-entry. We've also extended the length of Starship, and we've done this by 2 meters. This additional height gives us about 25% more propellant volume, which will aid in future longer duration missions. We also implemented propulsion upgrades, such as new fuel feed line system for the Raptor vacuum engines, as well as vacuum jacketing of feed lines and an improved propulsion avionics module.
And you've heard us talk, a lot of the experiments we're running today are focused on re-entry. We're intentionally removing a whole bunch of tiles all over Starship itself in this missing tile test. They're removed in critical areas this time, including over those propellant tanks, around some of the flaps, as we're really looking to use this flight to push Starship's capabilities. If we're not resilient to a missing tile and the backup ablative underneath, we need to know that. We also test a couple of different tiles on Starship, some metallic ones, one of which has some active cooling built into it.
Avionics also underwent a complete redesign with 4 upgraded Starlink terminals. You can see the location there popping up on your screen. Those now combine Starlink navigation and radio frequency, as well as communications into a single unit. And non-structural versions of the ship's catch fittings have been installed to test thermal performance, i.e. do they survive re-entry, along with a smooth and tapered edge on the tile line to address hotspots we covered and saw in Flight 6.
And we've got some radar sensors on the tower catch arms again, as we're just looking at different ways to measure distance between the arms and a vehicle. These ones are actually protected by kind of a modified version of our heat shield tiles. Catching the ship's going to be a little different from catching a booster. One of the key things is it's going to do that flip right before its landing burn that rapidly reorients your antennas, which you're using for navigation. So those extra sensors on the ground side help just add more layers of control as ship and tower talk together for the catch.
And in another first, Starship will deploy 4 Starlink simulators. They are similar in size to our next generation Starlink satellites. Starship will have the ability to deploy our advanced V3 Starlink satellites, which will help further Starlink's impact in the coming years as we work to expand access to high-speed internet all around the world.
Each Starlink V3 launch is planned to add about 60 terabits per second of capacity to the Starlink network. To give you some perspective, that's about 20 times the capacity we're adding right now with every V2 mini launch on a Falcon 9. Those Starlink simulators that we're going to deploy are on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship itself. They're expected to demise upon entry. Starship's trajectory looks super similar to our last couple of flights. Splashdown is targeted for the Indian Ocean. And then on top of all of that, again, we are planning to relight one Raptor engine while in space. That just helps us get data on the in-space burns and show Starship is capable of deorbiting.
Speaking of deorbiting, thanks to Starlink, one of the hallmarks of the Starship missions are the incredible views that we get throughout flight, and especially during reentry, as evidenced by many a phone and desktop background around here. Yeah. Every day, we're working to expand the Starlink network both on Earth and in space. For how this all connects us to the big mission, let's head back to Chris.
Thanks, Kate. Personally, I love all those epic views of the plasma wrapping around Starship during reentry. Can't wait to see that later today. And fans of Starship may know that Starlink enables us to bring you lots of unprecedented views, both from space and here on Earth. Starlink is the world's largest satellite constellation operating in low Earth orbit today to deliver high-speed, low-latency broadband internet and connectivity, specifically for missions like Starship today. And as you can see on your screen, Starlink brings us many other views because of its capabilities. In addition to the dozens of cameras on Starship itself, we have mobile camera kits with Starlink deployed in the Indian Ocean, which is what you're seeing some footage of right now on your screen from a previous mission. You'll notice the Starlink mini dish in the foreground here as Starship lands in the background. Just what an image that captured from an earlier flight. Now, Starlink also connects our aerial and cinematography units on the ground at Starbase, which will help us deliver the incredible drone shots leading up to launch today. And here on your screen, you can actually see us moving the flaps, preparing Starship for flight, making sure all of the aero surfaces that need to move during flight can do so in the way that we need them to. Now, on Starship itself, Starlink will enable Starship today to stream more than 120 megabits per second of real-time, high-definition video and telemetry in every phase of flight, including views like you're seeing right now of those flaps moving. This not only helps provide those views, but it also helps give our engineers an incredible amount of data to help us rapidly and iterate across all parts of the system as we move through our development program. And all of the streaming data today will definitely be put to good use with the more than 30 cameras on the vehicle for flight. But providing epic views is sort of a side quest for Starlink. Its main job is obviously to provide internet access for people around the world, many of whom who have never had connectivity before. Now, today, Starlink serves more than 125 countries, territories, and other markets with over 5 million active customers and counting. And there are just so many inspiring ways that people are using Starlink all around the world and in space. And hopefully today, in a few minutes, everyone will get to see more inspiration about what our future in space looks like. And Dan and Kate, how are we looking for Starship's flight today?
Thanks, Chris. We are looking forward to those views as well. In fact, we're getting ready to launch Starship in just over 8 minutes. Now, as for a couple status updates, working no major issues on the vehicle. Range is emerald green, you could say. Everything looks great in terms of the sea and airspace here in the Gulf of America, as well as in the Indian Ocean. Of course, we want to make sure both areas are clear as the ship will be splashing down in the Indian Ocean while the booster is going to be coming back to us at the launch site just a couple miles behind Dan and I. Weather, you could call it a silver lining that we had to delay from Monday because holy moly, visibility is 1,000 times better today and it's going to make for some really great views. Now leading up to today, we did stack the vehicle later last night. Flight controllers reported to their consoles earlier today. The site was cleared and the range team was deployed.
That's right. And a lot of checkouts have happened just throughout the day, aligning our guidance, navigation, control, getting all the tanks ready for prop load, which has about 4 minutes left to go. You can see us almost topping out on ship, getting ready to top out on booster. And then it also includes getting all the ground support systems checked out, ready to go. Chopsticks were demated, did their wiggle test in advance of their upcoming catch opportunity. So as I just said, prop load's ongoing. We've got a little over about 4 minutes left until, or about 4 minutes. What's 7 minus 4? 4 minutes until we get to closeouts on ship and on booster. We did just hear that the range did pull again green. So we're not tracking any issues right now. Bottom line, things are looking great for launch at the top of our window at 5:30 p.m. Central Time.
Yeah, very exciting. Now, once again, we are attempting to catch the booster at the launch tower. If that happens today, it will be the third ever booster catch. This is an aspect that I really enjoy, and it's how the vehicle announces that it is back.
It lets you know.
Oh, yeah. This comes in an audible sonic boom in the area around the return location, which occur when the booster slows down from traveling at supersonic speeds. Similar sonic booms were heard during the return and landing of NASA's space shuttle.
Yes, sonic booms are unique to vehicles returning from space. They're kind of a hallmark of reusable systems like our Falcon 9 rocket and Falcon Heavy. General impact to those in the surrounding area is that brief thunder-like noise. I've been fortunate enough to be here for all of them so far. They definitely let you know the vehicle's coming. Here's a little bit about what it's like to experience it.
Sonic boom. Did that have music, producer?
And as someone who grew up hearing those sonic booms as the shuttles landed in Florida, and now hearing them for Falcon and Starship as well, they really are something to experience. And when you hear them, you just know it's a spaceship telling everyone that it wants to be reused. Great sounds. So as you can hear, the room is getting excited here in Hawthorne. The crowd eager to see Starship fly, as you can see. And here, now behind me in our flight control room here in Hawthorne, you can see some of our folks on console. They're assisting the flight controllers in Starbase, keeping an eye on all of Starship's various systems, including its avionics and those Raptor engines we talked about a little bit earlier. So Dan and Kate, with 4 minutes, 20 seconds left on the clock, let's hit it back to you at Starbase and hopefully watch Starship lift off today.
Thanks so much, Chris. Now, if you're just joining us, we're now just about 4 minutes until the liftoff of the 8th test flight of Starship. As we reported earlier, range and weather are both very green, super green, if you will, and everything is looking good. Propellant loading continues to happen. We're going to be closing out very soon on both stages of Starship.
Yeah, we're almost fully fueled on our tanks. We're going to see that closeout coming in just about 30 seconds on ship. So that's both the main and the header tanks. And then about 30 seconds later on booster. Once prop load is complete, we got just shy of 1 million pounds of liquid propellant. That's liquid oxygen, liquid methane onto both vehicles. All of our ground systems will do what's called pushbacks. They'll clear all those feed lines. We're not continuously replenishing the propellant on board Starship or Super Heavy. That's why we essentially have several minutes where we can hang out at that T-minus 40 hold point before we start to run into issues with temperatures or just those LOX levels, or that LOX level on the booster is one of the main things that we watch. So we're also going to do a couple of final checkouts. We'll do one final one of the thrust vector control, the TVCs on the booster. We'll see them hopefully do a little bit of a wiggle test. The first one comes at about 1 minute 40 seconds before launch, and then the last one comes right as we pass that T-minus 40 gate. Again, if we need to hold, which we held a couple of times on Monday, we can do so at that T-minus 40 second. We're not currently tracking any issues that would hold us there, but if we do run into that, we can hang out for a couple minutes.
That would be the point in the countdown, as we mentioned on Monday. That T-minus 40 second point is when we can pause to hold for final checkouts or pressurizations if necessary. But once we pass that T-minus 40 second mark, a number of things are going to occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems will come up to flight pressure. The ship goes to internal power. And after that, the quick disconnect or QD arm lockout. That's removed in preparation for retraction shortly after T0. Once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, as we saw on Monday, we had the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to that T-minus 40 second mark and hold there to assess what happened and if we're able to proceed to T0.
And like we said, that we can hang out at T-minus 40 for several minutes before we start running into some limits, essentially. On our propellant on board. There are a couple of other things, like if we pass the T-minus 10 second point, and the water starts to
90
flow in that flame
seconds, guys.
deflector,
Here
and
we
we
go.
scrub. That's automatic scrub for
This
the
is
day.
looking very, very good.
There's our TVC, our thrust vector control checkout. It's got a little bit of a wiggle there on those inner Raptor engines, those 13 inner ones, which are going to be used for that boost back burn and the landing burn. So cool to see those.
Yeah, I love that shot. We don't have that on Falcon, and it's just so cool to see really the business end of the Super Heavy booster.
Now we're down to 60 seconds. Godspeed, Starship. Let's see this work. Need a big win today. Let's hope it happens.
10 seconds away from that T-minus
Mitch,
40
yes, it is.
hold.
Indeed,
We'll
it
see.
is live. We got past the 40 point. Here we go. Up.
All right, we are going to hold at T-minus 40.
We're at a
We're
40-second
watching
hold.
the temperatures
40-second
on the
hold.
ship right now for the ship fuel.
Okay, let's see what the problem is.
Sounds like they're working through that. We might be able to release that
BJ,
hold
thank
shortly.
you so much. Really appreciate your support, your ongoing support. Thank you, BJ. So once again, they can stay in this
All
status
right, sounds
for
like
a
we're going to
little
be able
while.
to reset those holds, not tracking any other holds. And clock is rolling.
Up, here we go. Here we go.
And the clock is rolling once
Not
again.
much of a hold at all. Here
Now
we go,
T-minus
guys.
30 seconds till the liftoff of
Contact
the
at 1,
8th flight of
flight director, go
Starship.
Our
Gordon,
flight
thank you
director,
so
Joe
much. Really
Schleicher, today is
appreciate it.
go for
Go,
launch.
guys.
Let's listen in as he takes us through the final
Starship
seconds of the
flight
count.
happening here today.
T-minus 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There. Beautiful view, engines going.
We got the ball.
Here we go.
Vehicle pitching down range.
What a spectacular shot. And SpaceX out to themselves. Good shot.
Booster average pressure nominal.
Just beautiful. Beautiful looking liftoff. Stunning.
All right, we're a
All
little over
engines
40
running
seconds.
fine,
Little over
everything
40
looking
seconds into the flight, we are
Booster
seeing
ship,
33
power
out of
telemetry nominal.
33 Raptor engines ignited. Boosters pushing us downrange over the Gulf. Next milestone coming up in just under 10 seconds is going to be max Q, that max aerodynamic pressure.
Max Q.
Real. Wow.
All right, so we're through max Q. That's the heaviest stresses it's kind of seeing on the way up. Wow, that was pretty incredible.
I'm still recovering. That was amazing. Beautiful views of the vehicle on ascent, pitching downrange away from the launch tower.
Next thing coming up
Just
is hot
spectacular.
staging. So we're going to look for 6 engines to ignite
All right, so
on
here comes
ship
the hot
while we're
stage
still attached to
separation.
the top of the booster. We'll see all but those 3 center engines shut down on booster.
We're hearing the initial call that we are go for booster catch back here at the launch tower.
All right. It's looking like a booster catch is going to happen, guys. Here we go.
Coming up now
All
on hot
engines
staging.
going. Man, this is
The
looking
ship's engines
as
will ignite
flawless
while
as you
still
can
attached
imagine, at least
to
at the
the
moment.
Super Heavy booster, and also while Super Heavy booster will still be under power itself. The clamps holding the 2 stages together are going to release, and Starship second stage engines will
Booster engine
ignite.
cut off.
There we go. Hot staging is,
Ship engine startup.
yeah, very well done. Very well
Stage separation.
executed. Hot staging is becoming just a very
Booster
common
burn
thing
startup.
these days. And now the booster heading back.
There we go. Ship engines, all 6
two
Raptors ignited.
just dropped
We're doing
off
that
on
boost
Super
back
Heavy
burn.
from those central
Looks like we
core.
got
They
11
may
of the
be able to
13 that we
reignite
command
them
for
later
that,
this
so
year,
that's going to start
but they
sending
we
the
have
booster
two
back. We are still go for
engines
booster
out.
return, even with 2 Raptors out during that boost
But
back.
they're
We
gonna
can do a
get
full
the booster
duration one.
back anyway.
But
It's not
looks like we got a
necessary
ship,
for
6
the
engines
catch.
heading into space.
It is,
and then we got a booster
little
hopefully on
curious
our
that
way
we do
back
have those two
to
Raptor malfunctions,
Starbase.
but
How's everything going in
overall,
Hawthorne, Chris?
We should still
Everything
be able to
is looking good. The
execute.
crowd
The
eagerly followed
booster
that
catch should
ascent
still
and
be
now
very
watching the
doable.
booster coming back. So as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen here, that is Ship
All 6
continuing, and
engines
that's a
working on
great
the
view of
orbiter,
Ship
by the way.
continuing on its
All
way
6
to space.
engines
They're
working
looking,
just
that's
fine
inside the
on
camera,
orbiter.
inside the aft skirt, looking at the Raptor vacuum and the sea level engines. The sea level ones there in the center of your screen under our T+ clock. You can see our boost back burn. We're down to 3 engines on the boost back burn. And you can see Ship on the right-hand side of that telemetry with 6 engines lit, continuing its ascent to orbit, already over 100 kilometers in altitude. The booster 87 kilometers in altitude and continuing its trek right now back to the landing site and catch site. There's a,
Let's see if they
and
can.
we just heard a good call out for boost back shutdown. The next thing we should
see if
see
they
on our
can
screen
get
is
those
the
engines
separation
turned back
of the
on.
hot stage from the Super Heavy booster. We jettisoned that because we do not need it for the landing, but on future iterations of the Super Heavy, that hot stage ring will be incorporated into the booster and we will get it back. But for today, you can see it on the right-hand side of your screen there, just separating off of from the right-hand side of the booster. You can also see the booster doing its liquid oxygen dump there, which is exactly what we would expect for it to do as the booster gets itself configured for the landing here. Now, meanwhile, Starship will continue to coast after it reaches orbit for about 40 minutes or so up to an altitude of 214 kilometers, but it's still got a ways to go there, currently accelerating past 7,500 kilometers per hour there in velocity. And just look at those great views of the booster coming back. The Gulf coastline there just looks absolutely gorgeous.
Starship is on a nominal trajectory.
And there we hear nominal trajectories all around. And Dan and Kate, we're at 5 minutes, 15 seconds here
very
into the flight. Everything looking good for the Super Heavy and for Starship today. What's it like there at Starbase as we get ready to catch?
It was incredible, Chris, to be able to see the mock diamonds with my own eyes. That was amazing. We are standing by for return of booster back to the launch tower. We have heard that we are go for the catch of the booster.
Yeah, this coming from one of our long-range tracking cameras, we're able to see the hot stage separate and fly away. So coming up in just about 30 seconds, we're going to look for the landing burn. We're going to command those 13 inner and middle ring engines to turn on. 13 initially, they bleed off all of that velocity as we're slowing down from supersonic speeds, eventually moding down to only 3 engines for that precision flight into the tower.
Right now, booster using its 4 hypersonic grid fins to help guide itself through this atmospheric entry back for its precision landing at the launch site.
Yep, here we go.
Once again, we're going to ignite first the center 13 engines.
All right, engines going.
Momentarily.
Everything except one engine appears to be functioning.
This is going to come down to 3 engines as the booster slows down for its landing.
So only one engine in action again.
And we just heard the sonic boom.
Here we go. It's looking good. It's looking good.
What an incredible sight to see the Super Heavy booster gliding down into the chopstick arms once again.
Nothing short of
stuck the landing.
We, of course, will see what the status of the booster is as it sits there, whether or not we might have any kind of fires or anything. But right now,
we saw 12 out of 13 light for that landing burn. Booster still able to make its way with that final precision burn on the 3 engines in for the tower catch. So booster
it
caught.
Doesn't look like we have any problems.
Meanwhile, keeping an eye on Ship. Still got 6 Raptors burning. Those are going to continue.
It's looking pretty good.
For about another minute.
And it's in pretty good shape. Just an amazing accomplishment. Again, 3 booster recoveries becoming so routine here. So routine. What? Three engines are out on Starship and it's beginning to tumble. Oh my God. Look at it go. Look at it go. Oh my God. And we, yeah, almost definitely have lost the orbiter now. Off nominal. Oh my God. Oh my God. We're down to 2 engines. Look at it tumble. I mean, this is a spectacular view, but a spectacular view of something that isn't good. They need to blow this thing up. They need to detonate right now because this thing is completely out of control. You disagree? Okay, tell me, Darth. Okay, we want to shut down thrust. Yeah, get the engine shut off. Right, not necessarily detonate the flight termination. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh God. How that's okay, but still have 1 engine going. Man, they need, I don't think they have any control over this thing at all since the engines are still operating. They need to shut these things down because as the engines remain up, okay, finally, thank God the engines are out. Thank God the engines are out. All right, folks, I need to make one thing very clear. If you are in the Caribbean, you need to keep your eyes open. All right. We don't know how far Starship, I'm being serious here. We don't know how far Starship drifted off of its trajectory. It could very well be burning up over an island right now. Some of the islands in the Caribbean, if you are in that region at all, you need to keep your eyes open and take cover. Take cover. It is possible that Starship may have drifted outside of its re-entry corridor, and this could be a dangerous thing indeed. Hopefully it didn't go that far off course, but those engines were burning so long while it was in that tumble phase. Again, guys, if you are anywhere in the Caribbean region, just please get to cover until we know where this ship is going to burn up. Right. Right. The re-entry now. I'm in consultation with a member of my team who actually does lots of missile work and such. Has a lot of experience with these sorts of things. So we've got some good news. Even though the engines were burning for a considerable amount of time during the tumble, it hopefully the rocket doesn't look like it's going to drift that far out of the re-entry corridor. Also, the rocket was flying for a considerable amount of time before it was lost. That being the case, it's very likely that the burnup will take place over the Atlantic and not over any inhabited areas. Again, though, we don't want to be taking any chances here. If you live anywhere in this region, you absolutely need to be safe rather than sorry, and take cover until we know where this reentry is going to be taking place. Again, I don't, odds are everybody's going to be fine, but at the same time, it's better to be safe rather than sorry. Ugh. Yes. Well, for now, there was something that was brought up in regards to aircraft and civilian flights in the region. The FAA made some good preparations for this flight. They cleared a much larger reentry corridor of civilian traffic for the launch than they did the last time. Civilian traffic is being kept well away from the reentry corridor, much further away than it was the last time. So that being the case, I think that air traffic should be all right, although it's likely that they're going to be still diverted and such. There's probably still going to be disruption to air traffic, but probably no danger. Probably no danger. So I'll tell you, this is grim. We don't know why the booster was lost, but this is the second consecutive Block 2 booster that has been lost from Starship, and uh, I'll tell you, anybody who's been watching my channel for a while, you know that I don't speak unconditionally positively about SpaceX at all, nor am I constantly critical or anything like that. But this is this is a nasty blow. This is a nasty blow to this program, and there's no other way to put it. The good news is that the booster got caught again. We don't want to lose sight of that. This is almost becoming routine, that booster
Measures
catch,
in place, like
still,
debris response
there's a
areas where
problem
we
with this
coordinate
Block
very
2,
closely with air
obviously.
traffic control.
There's some
We have a
sort of
lot of
issue
measures put
with
before
this,
we
with
ever
this
launch a
larger
rocket
Starship.
in work right now. So just to recap real quick, everything we saw, we lifted off right at the top of our window, essentially at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Booster was able to get us all the way up into space, made its way back here. It's sitting on the tower right behind us, our third ever catch. Starship ignited all 6 of its Raptor engines. It was just about 20 or 30 seconds away. We'll get exact times from the end of its ascent burn when we started to see some engines go out.
We also need to mention, can we go ahead and yeah, silence them, please? And once again, I don't want to make it sound like I think that what SpaceX is saying is unimportant here or anything like that. But at the same time, they're going to have to be very guarded about anything that they say at the moment. This certainly this is essentially a brand new rocket in many respects. We have to remember what happened to the first couple of flights of Starship at the beginning of this process. It blew up on the first couple of flights as well. In many respects, now that we have this Block 2, in many ways, this is a new rocket also. And I really had some issues with this. They flew this thing again really, really fast. The investigation as to exactly what caused the failure in January and what to do to correct it to make sure that it didn't happen again, that investigation is actually still in process. The FAA gave a green light to SpaceX before the investigation was complete. Now, I'm not saying that that was necessarily a bad decision. I'm simply saying that that SpaceX didn't have a lot of time to correct whatever problems may have been in place on that last flight. They do things very, very quickly. SpaceX fixes problems and flies again very, very quickly. But at the same time, this happened. They turned this around and flew very rapidly, and there obviously were still problems in place. So now obviously the FAA is going to trigger another investigation. Although I think it's very likely that Elon will be able to get Starship to fly again, probably in a month and a half, something like that. I would say that there's a decent chance that we're going to have another flight by the end of April, not necessarily because that's a great idea, but because of the amount of power that he wields in the government. He can basically make anything happen that he wants. I mean, it's as simple as that. He wields that much authority. So that being the case, it's his solution is going to be, let's fix it and try again. And the only way we're going to know exactly what's going wrong with these rockets is by analyzing the failures. And they will analyze this failure as they analyzed the last one to see to see how to rectify those issues. So yeah, again, I don't want to go ahead. Right. Just to be clear, at this point, the debris most probably is already in the ocean wherever it was supposed to go. And I would say there's a very decent chance that we are going to be getting footage from the ground, depending again on how far out into the Atlantic Starship was. So at this point, if you are in the Caribbean, it's probably safe to emerge. But at the same time, yeah, not pleasant. This is definitely not what SpaceX needed right now, and clearly they have things to rectify with this Block 2, because that's clearly where the issue is. The booster is working beautifully, even though it had a couple of minor engine failures. Overall, the booster went so well, and it's getting routine. I mean, it's close to okay. We're already starting to get footage. Can you any chance you can get some of that, producer? All right. Give us a couple of minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere. Give us a couple of minutes. We are getting footage from the Caribbean of the re-entering Starship. We're going to try to bring that footage to you right now. But yeah, people were very aware in the Caribbean. There were observers who were very aware that this might happen again. And so we had a lot of people probably out with their cell phone cameras ready to watch, ready to capture this happening. And we will see how this goes. Once again, guys. Okay, go ahead. Let's have a look. We got the footage right now, folks. We have it right now. Yep. Oh my God, look at that. Holy God, that's Florida? We have debris. Can you replay that? Can you replay that? We've got debris coming down. Okay, this is... Okay, just so you know, this debris is not actually coming down on the buildings, okay, folks? It's a long ways off in the distance. Most probably, we are not having any debris impacting any sort of civilian property. But at the same time, this did not get as far as we had hoped. All right, we've got another piece of footage for you, folks. Oh, ugly. There's no other way to put this. It's ugly. Yes, that is our main emphasis right now. We are, because it did not appear to make it all the way out into the Atlantic. We are hoping to God that this debris did not hit any populated areas in the Caribbean or in the Florida Keys, anything like that. Here's more. Yes, here's more debris over the ocean. Oh my God. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put this. It's ugly. It's just ugly. Thank you so much, Pebmets. Thank you for your support. Today's anomaly is showing why we can't abandon SLS at this time. Honestly, Flight 8 should have been showing progress. I know it's still a prototype. It doesn't appear that they made any significant gains. Yeah, Pebmets. Well, if anybody who watches my channel, you've known that that's been my opinion from the beginning. We're not ready to give up on SLS. We're just not. We have, even though it's expensive, wasteful, so many things wrong with that rocket. But here's the thing. It got its cargo to the moon on the first attempt. Andrew, that is highly... Okay, we have cruise ship footage now, too, of debris coming down. We're going to bring that to you as well. Andrew, I think it's highly unlikely, again, not necessarily because it's the best thing, but because of the authority that Elon wields in the government. I don't see that being brought down. But then again, it's hard to say. I mean, Trump ain't a big fan of failures, so we'll see how this goes. But again, that's all politics. My main concern is that people need to... I just hope people are safe. My main thing is I just hope people are safe and that this debris isn't causing any isn't damaging property, isn't endangering any lives. This is just ugly. More shots of debris coming down. That looks promising. That debris definitely is coming down over the ocean. At least appears to be. God, I hope we don't have anything coming down over Cuba. That would create a massive international incident. Let's hope not. Go ahead, Darth. Okay. Okay, so the debris we are looking at right here, again, according to my team member who has a lot of experience with rockets, this debris is way up. We're talking 50, 60 kilometers, maybe even more. So wherever it's coming down is beyond the horizon and therefore way beyond any sort of populated areas, at least as far as we can tell. Again, we are, fingers crossed, really hoping that that everybody's safe in this situation. Okay, we got another one coming in. All right, the Dominican Republic has captured some footage as well. Ugh, if the Dominican Republic is seeing this stuff, that indicates a burn up over the Caribbean. That's a burn up over the Caribbean. All right, I can't see it actually, ASN, over Discord. I'll wait for it to come up on the other foot. Oh my God, look at that! Now I can see it. BJ, thank you so much. My God, Bones, what have I done? Oh my God, from the Star Trek 3. Yeah, I tell you, let's hope that that's all we can look at this from is a Star Trek 3. Memories that the the recollection of that movie rather than anything too grim. But yes, so we remember that. Johnny, thank you so much for your support. Flight 7, Flight 8 went kaput almost at the same speed and altitude. Likely going to be close to Turks and Caicos again. Yeah, that is very possible. Yeah, boy, that is some spectacular footage. Okay. All right. So it looks like okay, so Turks and Caicos has it as well. All right. So we have another video feed. I'll tell you, there were so many people out there with cell phone cameras. I mean, that's sad, to be honest. It's sad that so many people were ready for this to happen. It's as if they were expecting it. Here's Turks and Caicos footage. Turks and Caicos footage right now. Wow. My God. Very, very ugly. Ugh. I know I keep saying the same things here. BJ, thank you so much. Hopefully, no Klingons on the Starship for this flight. Yes. Wow. That reentry. Jeez. This is not what any of us wanted to see. Obviously, this makes for some exciting content or whatever, but this is the last thing that any of us wanted to see. This is the future of landing on the moon. Starship is the anointed vehicle to put human beings on the surface of the moon with HLS, with the human landing system, and that whole plan has taken another nasty blow. And it could be that okay, here's another one. We've got even more. I'll tell you, there are so many civilian cameras in this region who are just poised to watch for this, and I'll tell you, they are producing results. We are seeing some. Looks like this latest footage may be from the Bahamas. Again, wow, just And again, the payload on Anton was just a couple of dummy satellites, nothing all that significant on it in terms of payload, nothing valuable. Say a couple dummy satellites that had cameras on board to theoretically give us a look at Starship in orbit, and sadly, that's not what we ended up seeing. That was ugly indeed. So yeah, and the thing of it is, even with SLS cannot land on the moon. All right, we got another more Florida footage right now coming up right now. Jeez. So I'll tell you, this stuff is getting posted everywhere. Again, just people anticipating that this might happen, and sadly, they were right. As I say, we just hoping, praying that there's nobody in harm's way. That's our main concern, is that there's nobody in harm's way, that there are no aircraft that drifted into this region. Again, to emphasize, the FAA cleared a much larger re-entry corridor than they did for the last flight. That being the case, then it's very unlikely that any planes are in danger. All right, so there we are. That's what we saw, and yeah, that's up. We got one more to bring you apparently, so we'll go ahead and show that to you. Yeah, it's the nature of the instantaneous. Yep, we got it. Boy, another just spectacular and sad footage that we're seeing right now. Again, we're talking about a vehicle every bit as big as the space shuttle, as much mass and debris. It's just as serious when this thing burns up in the atmosphere as when the shuttle burned up in the past. Fortunately, once again, not traveling over over inhabited areas in the same way as the shuttle did, as Columbia did when it burned up, and obviously nobody on board. But still, again, you can't have this stuff happen and for there to be no danger, especially once again with all that tumbling and that sort of thing, with the engines burning as it was tumbling, etc. All right, we're going to run one more of these, folks. All right, what and who is that again? All right. Wow. So we got apparently about 3.5 minutes of re-entry footage here. Wow, what a spectacular view. Not a good view, but a spectacular one. Mm. So according to my team member, this looks like maybe from a Florida perspective looking south. Wow, that is just stunning. Yeah, probably so. Yeah, 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 yeah. So anyway, yeah, not at all what anybody wanted. So let's just all we can do is just hope that nobody is going to be that. It's just all we can do is hope that nobody's in danger. It's as simple as that. It's All right. Again, according to my team member, my consultant here, who's talking in my ear at the moment, again, a guy who has a lot of experience with missiles and such, says that it appears from this footage that the central core may have actually survived. What we're looking at here is a central core burning up, and if that's the case, that means that the flight termination charges did not detonate. Once again, we can't say for certain. That is this is speculation, but that's kind of what it looks like, perhaps. I remember seeing footage similar to this with a burn up of a missile in the early 1960s. I saw it. I have some footage in my archive that looks very much like this. Wow, just look at that. Wow. I'm just not sure. So yeah, they may not have been able to have detonated those flight termination charges. If they didn't, that's an even bigger problem. Pebmets, thank you so much for the super chat. If there's an interruption with air traffic as well with 7 FAA, we'll have to slow the Starship program down, maybe slow and steady. Yes, but it's hard to say. I mean, once again, I would say definitely if this were a year ago, I would say definitely the FAA would do that. These days, I don't know what the FAA has the power to do, if they have any power at all. It's really hard to say. Things are very things are yeah. So in any event, guys, there's believe me, we've seen lots and lots of opinions stream across the chat here. You have moments like this, and it creates a lot of dramatic responses and a lot of emotion on the part of people. We can. But I mean, again, here's my perspective, and then we're going to go ahead and close at this point. It's because I mean, we could probably show you footage okay, my producer's begging me to show one more reentry video. We'll go ahead and show that to you. These things are just popping up everywhere, though. But oh my god, wow. Most probably somewhere in the Dominican Republic or possibly Haiti, looking north. No, it's Bahamas, actually. No, I'm sorry. It's in the Bahamas. It's in the Bahamas is where this shot is from, actually. Again, very spectacular. So once again, we want to go ahead and reiterate here. This is a new this Block 2 upper stage is a new rocket in many respects. Remember that we lost the first 2 flights completely, and we're introducing an entirely new rocket in many ways. So, but all that having been said, this is still, there's no way to sugarcoat this. I'm sorry. There just isn't. This is a setback. This is a significant setback to have this happen twice in a row, to have a re-entry over the Caribbean twice in a row, to have debris coming down, even though there's definitely no civilian flights in the area, having burning debris plunge down through civilian flight corridors twice in a row. Sorry, there's no way around this. This is a setback. I am confident that SpaceX can bounce back from it. I am confident that Starship will be a successful interplanetary transport system in the future. But at the same time, this is not what SpaceX wanted to see today at all. And it is most definitely a setback. Thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget the merchandise link at the top of the chat. We'll see whether or not we can catch the UFO fans, or if not, second place will also get a week dedicated to either space flight or space science, depending on whether or not the Apophis shirts sell the most, or if the Hohmann orbital transfer equation that sure to sell the most. By the way, these things have been selling very well, guys. So thank you so much for that. Really, thanks for all of your support. Really appreciate everybody who's watching right now. I'll keep you up to date on the investigation of all this and how we move forward. So until then, stay angry about space.